Between manipulation and betrayal, my true story of overcoming. I never imagined that living with my wife's family would be one of the greatest challenges of my life. My name is Andre, and what I'm going to tell you here is an experience I had not long ago, around 2018, when everything seemed fine, but deep down, I already felt something was wrong. At the time, I worked as a manager at a mid-sized company, had a stable life, and believed that my marriage to Maria Eduarda would be the pinnacle of my happiness. We had plans, dreams, and that good feeling of building a future together. However, I never imagined that the problem wouldn't come from her, but from her mother-in-law, Marisa. Marisa was always a strong-willed woman, but for a long time, I tried to ignore the signs of what was to come. She didn't like me much, and I could feel it in the way she spoke, in her cold gaze, and in the little digs that always fell on the backs of those who least deserved it. Maria Eduarda, my wife, never confronted her mother. She always said it was best to avoid trouble, that family is family, and that I needed to learn to live with my mother-in-law. At that time, I remained calm, trying to understand and find space to breathe within that tense environment. Little by little, what were once minor annoyances became a constant burden. I felt diminished, disrespected, and even invisible to Marisa. She constantly manipulated situations, controlling Maria Eduarda's perception of things, and without realizing it, I was drifting apart from my own wife. It was a daily battle to maintain the peace while simultaneously trying to maintain my self-respect. I questioned whether it was all worth it, but there was a genuine love there that kept me trying. But the situation was beginning to consume me. When I decided it would be a good idea for us all to take a family trip to Italy, to visit Rome, Venice, and Florence, I thought perhaps this experience could bring people together, ease tensions, and create happy memories. I financed the entire trip, bought tickets, booked hotels, and organized everything down to the smallest detail. I wanted to do something special, a gift for Maria Eduarda and of course for her family. I thought it would be an opportunity to bring us closer together, to break down barriers. Little did I know that this would be the trigger for a conflict that would change everything. When I shared the idea with Marisa and Maria Eduarda, the response was cold and disappointing. Marisa immediately said the trip would be just for her family, meaning that I, despite being her husband, wasn't part of that family. Maria Eduarda remained silent, allowing her mother to impose this barrier. It was a shock. I'd never felt so excluded, so belittled, especially from my wife, whom I'd expected to be by my side. That's when I began to feel my patience wearing thin. But I still didn't know the magnitude of what was coming. I spent sleepless nights wondering what to do. I wanted to react, but without being aggressive or disrespectful. I just wanted respect, recognition, and the right to be with my wife and her family. But the collusion between mother and daughter left me more isolated than ever. I felt a mixture of sadness, anger, and disappointment because deep down, I didn't want to lose my wife. But I also couldn't allow myself to be trampled on. The idea of canceling the trip came to me at that moment as a way of showing that I would no longer accept being treated that way. The day I decided to cancel all my reservations and tickets was one of the hardest of my life. I knew it would have a profound impact and that many would be upset, but I had to put an end to it. I needed everyone to see what I had been silently enduring for years. It wasn't blind revenge, but a calculated act to show my limits. I felt a tightness in my chest, a mixture of guilt and relief, but I was determined. I could no longer continue in this dynamic that was destroying me from within. When I told Maria Eduarda my decision, it was as if the penny had finally dropped. For the first time, I noticed a look of doubt, fear, perhaps even regret. Marisa, on the other hand, reacted arrogantly, as if nothing was happening. The trip wouldn't happen, and they would have to fend for themselves abroad without any financial support from me. It was painful for everyone, of course, but it was a necessary shock. It was a watershed moment that heralded the end of an Era and the beginning of something new, for better or worse. The trip turned into chaos. My wife and mother-in-law were lost, uncomfortable, unsure of how to act away from home, and most importantly, without the money I had provided. During this time, I realized that Maria Eduarda wasn't supporting me as I expected, that she preferred her mother to me. It broke my heart, but it also showed me the stark reality. Our relationship was beyond repair. It was from that moment on that I began to understand that the marriage was over and that I needed to take care of myself. Alongside all this, João, my father-in-law, was always a calm and kind person, but he also suffered from his wife's behavior. He reached out to me to apologize for the situation, acknowledge that I had been wronged, and support my decision. His attitude was a relief to me, a confirmation that I was not alone. His courage in breaking up with Marissa and filing for divorce was an example that it is possible to change and break toxic cycles, even when it seems difficult. This gave me the strength to move forward. After the end of my marriage, I faced a whirlwind of emotions. It was a period of intense reflection, sadness, and even guilt for having lost someone I loved and for having destroyed the dreams we had built together. But at the same time, it was the beginning of a rebirth. I needed to reconnect with myself, understand what I wanted for my life, and most importantly, learn to respect my limits and my needs. It was painful but necessary to find myself again. The pain taught me to be stronger and truer to myself. The loneliness of the first few months after the divorce was frightening. I felt lost, as if I had a huge void inside, but it was also an opportunity to discover who I was outside of that relationship. I started taking care of my health again, picked up hobbies I'd neglected, and dedicated myself to work diligently. I started attending support groups, talking to friends, and even seeking professional help. Little by little, I was rebuilding my self-esteem, allowing myself to make mistakes and learn, without putting so much pressure on myself. The process of overcoming grief was slow and full of ups and downs. There were days when I felt like giving up, shutting myself off from the world, but the support of people who truly cared about me made all the difference. I learned to forgive myself, to accept that not everything depends on us, and that sometimes the best path is to let go. It was a valuable learning experience that helped me grow and prepare me for the new challenges and opportunities that life would bring. The trip I organized to bring my family together ended up being the starting point for my liberation. Looking back today, I see that that difficult period was crucial to my becoming the person I am today. I learned to say no when necessary, to value those who respect me, and to not tolerate abuse, even from those close to me. The story with Marissa and Maria Eduarda showed me that love is not enough without respect and mutual support, and that sometimes difficult decisions must be made to preserve one's dignity and emotional health. I became stronger, more aware, and happier. This experience also taught me the importance of setting clear boundaries in family relationships. Coexistence can be challenging, especially when people have strong personalities and complex histories. But it's important to find a balance, establish respect, and establish genuine dialogue. I learned to stand my ground and not allow anyone, not even my wife's family, to treat me with disdain. This lesson applies to any relationship, be it family, romantic, or professional. Divorce wasn't the end of my life, but the beginning of a new chapter. It was painful, yes, but also liberating. I was able to rediscover my worth, my priorities, and what truly matters to me. From that moment on, I began investing in myself, in dreams that had previously been postponed, and cultivating healthier, more sincere relationships. What seemed like a defeat turned into a great personal victory. Today, I share this story so others know they are not alone, and that it is possible to overcome even the most difficult moments. My relationship with my ex-wife is cordial but distant today. We understood that our paths couldn't continue together, and we respect that. Things have changed significantly with her family. João and Marisa separated, each moving on with their lives, and I was able to free myself from the toxic environment that consumed me. I feel this process was good for everyone, even if it was painful at first. Life has these twists and turns. Sometimes, to grow, we need to break free and let go of what doesn't serve us well. I want you reading this to understand that overcoming obstacles isn't linear. It's not a magic trick or a eureka moment. It's a daily process made up of small choices, forgiveness, acceptance, and the courage to move forward. I've made mistakes, I've fallen, I've been scared, but I've always gotten back up. And each time I've succeeded, I've felt a little stronger. So, don't give up. Even when all seems lost, the light may be closer than we imagine. My story is proof of that. Ultimately, I realized that self-respect is the foundation of any healthy relationship. You can't love someone who doesn't respect you, and you can't stay in a relationship that destroys you. I had to learn this the hard way, but this lesson freed me. Today I'm proud of who I've become and know I can build a lighter, truer, and more meaningful life. I want to thank everyone who's read this far, because sharing this story helps me heal old wounds and move forward with hope. From that moment of rupture, I began to surround myself with people who value me and encourage me to grow. I reconnected with old friends, made new ones, and realized that the support of our network is essential to overcoming crises. I also began to take better care of myself, with exercise, nutrition, and practices that calm the mind and strengthen the spirit. This balance between body and mind was essential for me to recover. Overcoming for me was a process that involved internal and external change, not just an isolated decision. One of the things that helped me a lot was writing about my experience, sharing it with people who had been through similar situations. I found a safe space in forums, online groups, and even in therapy to talk about pain, frustration, and fear without judgment. This process of externalizing my feelings freed me from a huge burden and allowed me to look at my journey with more compassion and clarity. If you're reading this and feel stuck, try talking, writing, and seeking help. Don't carry it all alone. The respect I didn't receive within that family, I learned to give myself. Rebuilding my self-esteem was the most important step in making me feel capable of loving again and accepting true love. Today, my relationships are based on open dialogue, trust, and mutual support. And even though it was difficult, I'm grateful for having experienced it, because without that shock, I wouldn't have changed. Life is a constant learning process, and what seemed like an end was just a new beginning. When I think of Marisa, I no longer feel anger or resentment. I learned to see the pain and fears behind that arrogant and controlling attitude. I understand that everyone carries their own battles, and that mine was different from hers. Forgiving wasn't easy, but it was liberating. Forgiveness gave me peace and allowed me to move forward without the weight of the past holding me back. Still, I maintained clear boundaries so I wouldn't be a victim of abuse again. Change comes first from within. Maria Eduarda was an important part of my life, and despite everything, I hope she finds her own happiness and learning. What was missing in our relationship was support and alignment during the most difficult moments. But today I know I can't carry the other person's burden. Each person is responsible for their own life and their own choices. I learned to respect this and to respect myself above all. This emotional maturity was an achievement that gave me the balance to face the future with more serenity. One of the hardest lessons was understanding that we can't change the people around us, but we can change how we react to them. I tried for years to convince Marisa and Maria Eduarda to respect me, but those who don't want to change, don't. Accepting this reality freed me from frustration and made me focus on myself. The path to overcoming challenges lies in this acceptance, that we can only change ourselves. This truth however harsh, is what kept me going. Over time, I learned to prioritize. I realized that my mental health needed to come first, and that I shouldn't sacrifice myself to please anyone who doesn't respect my boundaries. I began to value myself more, to say no without guilt, and to invest in relationships that made me feel good. This transformation brought me a peace I'd never experienced before, and I want to share it with those going through similar situations. You deserve this peace too. Today I have a new, healthy relationship based on respect and mutual support. I couldn't have built this if I hadn't gone through this whole process of self-discovery and overcoming. I learned to identify signs of manipulation and to avoid toxic relationships. I became more attentive and loving to myself. This made all the difference. I still carry scars, of course, but they don't define who I am. They just remind me of my strength to overcome. Looking back on everything I've experienced fills me with gratitude, even for the difficult moments. They taught me valuable lessons I never would have learned otherwise. Overcoming them gave me a new perspective on life, where self-love is the foundation of everything. I hope that by reading my story, you feel encouraged to fight your own battles, to respect yourself, and to never lose hope. Life can be hard, but it can also be beautiful when we allow ourselves to live fully. I know it's not always easy to recognize that we're in a toxic or abusive situation, especially when it involves family. It took me years to realize that coexistence wasn't healthy for me. But when we allow ourselves to see the truth, even if it hurts, it's the first step toward freedom. And freeing yourself isn't selfish. It's an act of self-love and courage. If you're reading this and identify with this, know that you're not alone and that you can overcome it. My story doesn't have a perfect ending because real life rarely does. But it does have one outcome I celebrate every day. The fact that I chose to respect myself and pursue my happiness, even if it meant losing people I loved. This choice saved me and gave me a new direction. Today I know I deserve more, and that respect is a right, not a privilege. I share this so others can find strength in the words of those who have been through the same struggle. Going through this process taught me that even when the ground seems to be falling apart, there's still the possibility of rebuilding. I had to leave behind many things I considered essential to reconnect with what truly matters: my dignity, my peace, and my ability to love without fear. This was liberating and helped me grow as a person. The journey was painful, but also beautiful, because it revealed a strength I didn't even know I had. I became my own anchor. My experience with my ex-wife's family also made me rethink the concept of family. Blood doesn't always mean support or true love. I understood that the family we choose, made up of people who respect and value us, can be much stronger and more important than our biological family. This realization opened my eyes to new relationships and led me to cultivate deep friendships that today serve as my safe haven. This helped me overcome the loneliness I felt after the divorce. I also learned that emotional honesty is essential to building healthy relationships. For a long time, I hid my feelings to avoid conflict, but this only led to increased hurt and frustration. By learning to express myself clearly, respecting my limits and feelings, I was able to connect with people who truly care about me. This authenticity is liberating and has given me the confidence to face challenges without fear. The truth always strengthens us. One thing that really impacted this journey was realizing that true love should never be suffocating or controlling. Living with Marisa showed me how much control can destroy relationships and lives. I understood that love means giving space, supporting and respecting the other, not dominating or manipulating. This lesson changed the way I relate to others today and made me value freedom and respect as pillars of any healthy relationship. I'll carry this learning with me forever. Overcoming, for me, was also a spiritual process. I needed to reconnect with my beliefs, my faith, and my essence to find meaning in everything I experienced. It was through meditation, prayer, and silence that I found answers and the strength to carry on. This connection brought me serenity and hope, even when all seemed lost. Spirituality taught me that we are capable of rising from the ashes and that light always conquers darkness. This certainty sustained me. Today, I live one day at a time with greater awareness and self-love. I know I will still face challenges, but I am prepared to face them with courage and serenity. The story I've told here isn't just mine. It's the story of many who struggle with toxic relationships and seek their place in the world. I want you to know that it's possible to overcome, that pain can be transformed into learning, and that self-love is the key to freedom. I've experienced this, and I know you can too. Sharing this experience made me realize how important it is to talk about these issues, which are often hidden out of shame or fear. The toxic relationship with my ex-wife's family was a hard lesson, but it brought me growth. I hope my story inspires others not to settle for less than they deserve and to seek help when needed. No one needs to suffer alone. Together we are stronger and can transform our reality. I haven't become a perfect person after all this, far from it. I still have my insecurities and moments of doubt, but I've learned to deal with them better. Accepting my vulnerability has made me more human and closer to the people I love. Today, more than ever, I value sincerity, respect, and empathy. These are the foundations that have built my new, lighter, happier life, and that's how I want to continue day after day. Finally, I want to say that overcoming doesn't mean forgetting the past, but rather learning from it and moving forward with greater wisdom and courage. I carry the scars of that difficult time with me, but they don't define me. They remind me of how strong I am and how much I deserve to be happy. I hope my story can help someone find the strength to face their own challenges and believe that better days always come. Believe in yourself, because I do. Thank you for listening and allowing me to share my journey. If you're going through something similar, know that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and that even if it seems impossible, overcoming it is real and possible. Take care of yourself, respect yourself, and don't be afraid to pursue happiness. Life is too precious to be lived in.